Hello, hello, hello. We are back. If you don't know, I love these conversations primarily because there are so many quote unquote rules that leaders are supposed to abide by, abide within, and I love the conversations that either dispel those rules and myths or confirm that yes, you are right. This is what it should look like or what it can look like if you're willing to make certain adjustments. So I am here today with Hannah Austin. How are you?
I'm good, my dear. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Of course, of course. I'm so excited to literally dive right on in because burnout is, I believe it's something that, especially if you're in America, that, we kind of toyed with, like, oh, yeah, we get burnt out. But it wasn't something that there was a serious focus on until, of course, the panorama. And I like to call it a panorama because the word pandemic just it pulls up all types of things for me. So I prefer to give it a name that doesn't hurt as much. So I call it a panorama. But since the pandemic, for those who don't identify with that, since the pandemic, there has been a heavy focus on burnout, the effects of it, what happens. The balls that get dropped once you do reach a point of burnout. So, I wanted to have the conversation with you as to what are some of the things that you're seeing across the country and across the globe as you are doing the work working with brilliant leaders around burnout. So that's the kind of conversation that I want to have today. But before we hop into it, can you give us just a little bit about who you say that you are, aside from what you do, who you it is that you say you are?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question and such an important discussion and topic today. I guess if you would have asked me this question 3 years ago, I would have said I work in a corporate world and my job is to help people heal, right?
Mhm.
In a physical way, working at one of the largest healthcare organizations in the country.
Mhm.
Now I would say I really help people heal from the inside out, right? Not just
Mhm.
physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And so that's the work that I do with burnout prevention around the country and now around the globe to help people learn how to reignite themselves from the inside out.
Yes, I love that reignite themselves. So then what does that look like if someone is trying to figure out whether they are, I guess ignited? What does that look like when you even identify? Because the first step to anything, whether it's healing, growth, or whatever, is identifying where things are now. So
Mhm.
how do you even start that part? Like, okay, right now I am where? How do
Yeah.
I even identify that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You start where you are right now. And I think the biggest piece that coaches, consultants, they think North Star before they're like, okay, what is actually going on right
Mm,
now in the present moment? And I think so many of us are worried about addressing the present moment because we're afraid what we're going to find and uncover.
oof.
That's why busyness is so big in our culture, which I
Yep.
know you and I have talked about over the last couple sessions that we've chatted. You know, the culture of busyness,
Hmm.
it deflects from what we're actually feeling. So when I start to work with a client or an organization, the first thing I say is, okay, tell me what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And then I delve into, well, what has the past? What have you guys learned from the past?
Hmm.
What's worked? What hasn't worked?
Hmm.
And why do you think we're here right now? So,
Ooh.
from an individual standpoint, it's like, how did you get here? Why do you think you got where you are right now and how? And then I
Mm.
just like to listen, right? I mean, I think the power of a coach, a consultant is really to really listen
Yeah.
about what the words that people are saying, but then also the intention behind the words. And I think to your point, you and I've talked about this before, sussing out the root cause of what's going on can apply to not only external forces, but intrinsic forces of trying to figure out how did we get here and where do we go from here. And then and
Mm.
only then can we develop a plan to move forward once we've established like how did we get here, what was the past, what worked, what didn't, and then move forward to the future.
Yeah, so I really like that, especially assessing, hey, what have things previously been? And also answering, did that work? Like,
Mhm.
was it effective? And if it wasn't, okay, what does your unicorn life look like? Or what would you like it to look like? Let's say you're
Mhm.
too far gone to think unicorn. You can only think of, okay, this is what I want.
Right.
What is that like? So then what are the steps? Like, let's say, okay, I'm your client. What does that look like to help me to identify what I ultimately actually want, not what I should want, but what I actually want. What does that look
Mhm.
like?
Well, first, I think we need to stop kind of scrolling through social media, Facebook, whatever your Instagram, and say, "Oh my gosh, this person has an amazing, incredible life." You know, Mel Robbins, all the people, all of us, me included, are saying, "Here's what you can do to live a unicorn," or in my case, with my book, extraordinary life.
Yeah.
To me, what that means is what has worked for you in the past.
Mm.
There's no need to like wipe the slate clean and build a building from the ground up.
Hmm.
Everything, there have been parts of your life that have worked for you.
Yeah.
And so I think it's figuring out, it's almost like a straw house, right? What has worked for you in the past? Build that. And then how can you create a more fulfilling life based on that? So don't need to like do like death content where you just wipe out
We're not
everything.
demolishing.
We're not demolishing, right? There are things that have worked.
Mhm.
And I guess what I'd like to focus on with my clients is what has worked well. What do you want to lean into more of? Because
Mm.
there's always something, I think, and especially working with my clients, both individually and organizationally, the same thing is true. It's things have been working well, but we tend to sideswipe or disregard those things that are working well. We're like, oh, we take those things for granted. But
Mm.
actually, if you dive deeper into those things, those are the foundation for who you are and what you truly want. So, one of the first things which you asked was I ask each individual person and organization to list what they're good at, right? From the inside
Hmm.
out. What are you good at? What do you value the most? And then what are you yearning for? What are you yearning for organizationally and intrinsically as an individual that can spark that little spark that you and I talked about before, right? When I
Yeah.
say I want to reignite someone's spark, there is a little diamond in each of us. I truly believe it, pearl, sapphire, whatever bling you want to call it.
Whatever
There
floats
is
your boat.
floats your boat. That is like literally pulsating, right? It's saying, I miss this. I want this. I'm yearning for this, more of this.
Yes.
And so the truth is really life. To me, the key to life, happiness, joy is what exactly is that? And how many layers do we need to excavate and dive deep into to get the dirt out so you
Yeah.
can uncover that?
Yeah, I really, really love that. It's knowing that, hey, it's already inside of you. So many times we're looking on the outside, right? Saying, well, oh, if it can look more like this person's, or if I can have what they have. And the fact of the matter and it's honestly been proven with lottery winners, actually, where most lottery winners within those first 5 years of their winnings, they're broke again, because you don't need more things. You need to figure out what is it inside of me that I already intrinsically have, that I can take, and let me dive deeper. Let me excavate that. I love that. I love that phrasing. Let me excavate that so that I can clear off maybe the dirt and the gruff and the rough, to say, hey, this actually does work. I simply have to maybe focus more on it, because this was doing well. It just wasn't a focus, so I wasn't able to bring its true brilliance out. Right? It's a little dull.
Yeah, I think the best coach that I've ever worked with said to me, Hannah, why are you trying to be someone else when
Mm.
who you are is the person that shines, right?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to be the mirror for someone else when, girl, you are brilliant on your own?
Hmm.
And if I would have listened to that advice the first year that I started SheShatters, it would have saved me a whole lot of money, a whole lot of programs, a whole lot of
Yeah.
everything, heartache, when I just would have thought, gosh, I have 20 years of healthcare experience, management and leadership experience. Why am I trying to be a coach? Why am I not being more of a leader? Right? And
Yeah.
why am I not going to organizations and spreading the knowledge that I learned from
Hmm.
burning out myself into
Yeah.
new organizations to say, how can you retain people? And the moment, honestly, that I pivoted my business model and leaned on who I truly was the
Mm.
moment, lady, where the doors open. It was like floodgates, right?
Yeah.
So it's channeling that piece.
So then, now you just brought something up, and this wasn't even a question of mine, but now I've got to ask it. When you were focused on trying to do it how other people said it should be done, how do you know, or how did you differentiate between your voice and then the voices of others telling you what you should be doing and how you should be doing? Like, how do you differentiate that piece? Because those can feel, right, like they can feel synonymous. It can feel like, no, I am a coach because that is what I feel as though I am, but nothing's working. So
Yeah.
how do you differentiate? How do you figure that piece out?
I think for me it was, taking a course or taking a class. When you're a new coach, you get all of these like Instagram, Facebook, let's sign up for this leadership training. Oh, we can make you million, like kind of
Yeah.
sliding into the business sense of being a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I was always a coach. Like when an employee would come into my office and say, "What do I do?" or "How can I help?" or, a doctor would have issues and I would help them. They'd leave my office feeling better. That was coaching,
Yep.
right? You're just making a situation better than when you left it before, right? It's
Yeah.
coaching, consulting. And so for me, it was not following the shiny object syndrome, not leaning into the Instagram program or what was going on, and really saying, okay, what am I good at? And
Mm-hmm.
what do people experience with me from a beginning of conversation to the end of a conversation?
Yep.
And what results am I getting? Then leaning into basically asking those people, to be honest, what do you like about working with me?
Mm.
Testimonials, right? But it was more than a testimonial. It was basically like build it. If you build it, they will come. In this sense, it was if they come, you build what they want. And so I just started asking my customer, what do you want?
Mm.
How can I help you? And honestly, lady, I was like showing them workbooks. I was doing pilot programs. I was asking them to look at my book like a beta reader and saying, does this resonate with you? What doesn't resonate with you? And I built my company in public, right? I built it
Oh.
with a following already, knowing that I was building something that people were actually going to use, not just putting something pretty up on a website and being like, this coaching program's $9.99. No. What would you actually pay? Why would you actually show up? And what results can I get you? Those are my three questions.
Yeah, and you said something too that is incredibly important is the willingness to build out loud. Everyone wants to build like behind doors, under a bushel, so no one can see you mess up or no one can see that you're not perfect or you don't have it all together. And that fear can really cause so many to not even try and to just keep moving with what they think is working, even though they're miserable, because they're just like, well, I think this is okay. So then what did it look like for you when you burnt out? Like what was or what is your burnout story? And then what made you pivot for those who don't know your story?
Yeah, great question. So my story really began with being a public person at work, but kept keeping my emotions private. So
Mm.
if you would have asked any of my coworkers, and I actually did ask them when I left 4 years ago, describe Hannah. Bubbly personality, a go-to person, always gets SHI done, all of those things. Like she was our go-to person.
Yep.
But behind the scenes, not every day, but I was miserable, right? I
Mm.
was treading water. I felt like I was wasting my life. And now, looking back and talking to millions of people, right, interviewing them for my book and traveling around the country, this is not a unique secret to many of us, right? A
Yeah.
lot of us are one way in public and a different way in private. So I'm
Yep.
not saying I was a completely different person, like I was multiple personalities, but I would keep my emotions in check.
Uh-huh.
I was very controlled in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked in the corporate realm, corporate healthcare, and during fast forward to the pandemic, I basically crashed and burned in one of the hospitals that I was managing staff in. I collapsed. My physical body gave out.
Wow.
And I remember speaking to the doctor in the emergency room, and he's like, Hannah, because he knew me, Hannah, what are you doing? You're killing yourself. You're overworking. Your high blood pressure is off the charts. And at that point, I really needed to make a decision. Like, I walked away from my 20-year corporate career, I say, in order to save myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I literally retired, resigned.
Yeah.
And you can imagine after having a cell phone, two cell phones for 20 years, sometimes two phones at the same time, two different
Uh-huh.
conference calls. I was burning the candle at both ends. So I didn't have anything that I was going to go to next. I was trying to figure out what's next for me. And I started asking people, what do you need? It was during the pandemic. And they
Mm-hmm.
said, we need a burnout prevention company. We need support. We need help.
Mm-hmm.
So I built it. I took the next year and built the company that I like to say that people during COVID was all where they were all yearning for, right? They
Yeah.
wanted a place to go to get help.
Yeah, and two, it is. I always like to say you really can create magic when you realize what's missing in the market, and then you create that. You create the
Yeah.
solution. Like those have been some of the best products and services that are out. Ones in which it literally provides a solution. It is not about your passion or what you love so much. It's about, hey, what is the need here? So then for a lot of folks, okay, you burnt out, which is what you did. How can folks gain the courage to then come back? Because sometimes you can be incredibly embarrassed or even heartbroken as to what happened and what the fallout was when you burnt out. You may have felt you've burnt bridges, or whatever the case may be. So how do you come back from burnout? Because that can be such a scary, scary thing to do. Like, oh God, I've got to show my face here again.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's such a great question. And I'm actually writing right now, an article on courage, right? How do you turn your darkest moment into your lightest moment? And for me, it was starting with cracking the door and sharing my story, not being ashamed anymore that I was burning out, that
Mm,
I I wore busyness as a badge of honor for 20 years,
mm,
and I reinforce that.
yeah.
And so it's unraveling those old behaviors that no longer work for you. And that's why I wrote my book, right? I wrote my book, Hello, Head, Meet Heart, because I wanted someone to be able to pick up the book at their lowest point and go through the entire book and have them step by step walk them through what to do, right?
Yeah.
How to start reaching out for help, how to ask. There's a chapter in my book that is how to ask for help, which
Mm,
probably to you and I as a coach seems easy,
yeah.
but it's not. It's not,
No.
right? It's not. If it was, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
So really the book, I wrote the book I think that we were all yearning for because we were all at a dark place in our lives. And we needed to figure out how to get up from rise from the ashes of burnout to leap for, like I said, an extraordinary life. And an extraordinary life isn't a $10 million, I'm driving a Rolls Royce, I'm, on cribs.
Yeah.
Like that is not what I mean when I say extraordinary life.
Yeah.
Extraordinary life is getting up in the morning at least 80% of the time and feeling like you're on fire from the inside out emotionally. You're
Mm,
excited. You're excited to go to work. You're excited to be a mom. You're excited to be a dad. You're excited for your life ahead. You have hope. That is what an extraordinary life is. And I like to say it's a technicolor life. I mean, how many of us go
mm,
through life like it's Groundhog Day, right? Oh gosh, what's on the calendar tomorrow? Oh, what's for dinner tonight? It's Taco Tuesday. Like we're living in like a Groundhog Day.
yeah.
And that's a very black and white life. It's either this or it's that. And really, my book is all about tapping into your technicolor life. You can see that I like color. Like what lights you up from the inside out, what conversations get you going, what friends do you enjoy hanging out with, right? Are you ditching those friends that are no longer good for you? Like, what
Mm,
are you doing to really keep yourself on solid ground so you are in the passenger seat of your own life? You're not in the drive. So you're in the driver's seat of your own life. You're not in the passenger seat any longer.
yeah, that is incredibly important because so many people do sit in the passenger seat and then get upset with the results. And it's like,
Right.
you don't like this destination because you didn't really drive here. You
Mhm.
sat here, said nothing, and now you're
Yep.
upset at the destination. Make it make
Yep.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
Make it
Yeah, but
make
it's so
sense.
easy to do that. I mean, I think it's funny that we're kind of like joking about it, but how many of us have done that? I mean,
Yes,
I
I have
when I'm
too.
standing, yeah, when I'm standing on a stage at any of my conferences that I speak at, I ask the audience, I'm like, let's get real here. How
Yeah.
many of you are actually driving your own life?
Mm,
I mean, it's pretty eye opening when the audience, half of them are like, I have no control
yeah.
over my own life.
Mm.
And that's when you know you're heading to burnout. Like you're getting off the construction ramp, right? You're like you're needing support.
Yeah, the control over your own life and understanding that no matter what those external situations are, you really still are in control if you make the requirement of yourself to maintain and remain in control.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
takes some extra effort, that takes some extra energy. Like I was telling you previously, I now, I'm caretaking. I have my father living with me now. I'm still a single mom to a 14-year-old. She is a competitive gymnast. She's an award-winning competitive gymnast. Those rehearsals are 20 hours a week outside of what I'm doing with my own life. I
Wow.
am in a service position for a lot of my life. So I said, I too am going to harness the parts and pieces that get to belong to me So every Tuesday for an hour, every Wednesday for an hour, a Thursday for just an hour. And I forgot to even say on Saturday, I now do hula because I am determined to tap into, hey, what are some things that are specifically for me? So I think if I had to, and again, I'm not into following, the rules because they usually don't work for every person, but for me and creating my own rules for my own self to ensure that I'm not burning out is
Mhm.
I'm going to give myself a minimum of 4 hours a week, no, 5 hours a week that are just mine, that are
Love it.
just mine. 5 hours a week
Mm.
that belong to me that nobody else can take, not the partner, not my daughter, not my dad, not my siblings. It belongs to just me. But there are many people who say, "What are you talking about? I'm too busy. That's not possible." What is your advice for folks who feel as though they are too busy to hop over into the driver's seat because they need to be Ubered around because they've got meetings to attend and notes to write?
Yes,
They
I
don't
love
have
this
time.
question. I love this question because I myself have been guilty of saying I'm too busy for that.
Hmm.
And the moment that someone says to me, I'm too busy for that, I'm like, yes, I can help you because you're in denial. No, just kidding. No, I basically say, okay, you're too busy. Let's look at your schedule. You open your kimono. Let's go through Monday through Sunday and show me your schedule, right?
Yep.
And I ask a couple, very simple questions. Is this something that you have to be at,
Hmm.
right? I mean, what sense of control do you want over your schedule? First of all, is this something that you have to be at? Is this something that money can solve if you didn't do it? Which is an interesting conversation. And the third thing is, can you delegate this to anybody else? Or can you trade with someone else? So I have a lot of moms that come to me and say, I'm a single mom, or I'm not a single mom. And let's face it, they act like they're a single mom, but they're not, right? So the
Married single
conversation begins.
parenthood is such a thing. I was a married single parent.
Yes. So it's real and it's real. And nobody likes to talk about it, but we're talking about it. And
Yeah.
so the question is that's where the can you delegate this to anybody else?
Hmm.
And a lot of it is yes.
Yep.
Well, why don't you? Well, I don't, he
Mm.
wouldn't do it, or she wouldn't do it, or we didn't have the conversation. So we role play. What would a
Mm.
conversation look like? We give them an action plan. By Friday, you need to have a conversation with XYZ.
Yep.
And here's how you're going to, and then the next following week, how did that conversation go? Oh, well, I didn't have the conversation, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you chose not to have the conversation.
Mm.
What is the impact of you not having the conversation?
Yep.
Well, I'm more busy. So we go through, I mean, we literally go through
Yeah.
their schedule. And one of the things that I love to ask the audience too when I'm speaking is problem solving your own life, getting yourself back into the driver's seat. Can money solve this?
Yes.
The number one complaint from mostly women, in a lot of my workshops is, what are we going to have for dinner? This seems like a very easy problem to solve, but it's not. It's a dilemma for many, many people.
Yeah.
And so I ask the question, can money solve this? And why do I ask that? Because it could be, is it delivery? Is it a meal service? Is it that you have a shopping list when you go to Trader Joe's on Sunday for the following week and you know exactly how much your groceries are going to do, or you're doing Instacart? You pay the $3 for Instacart. If you're going to Starbucks every day and you're spending $6 on a latte, could you make a regular coffee at home, not go to Starbucks, and instead use Instacart one day a week so your grocery shopping is done?
Yeah.
So these are all kind of logistical things, not to get too much into the weeds, but we do go through their life to say, how can you get back in the driver's seat? What things can you control? And how can you reorganize and reframe this in your mind?
Yes. It's the reorganize and reframing it piece for me. When you are getting into the driver's seat of your own life, it's understanding that you do have a lot more control than you are telling and allowing yourself to believe.
Yes.
You
And I
have a
do
lot more.
believe that we wear the bat women wear the badge of busyness because it's easier to put up the badge. Oh, I'm busy. I'm the martyr. I mean, I've done this, so I'm saying this.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the work to say, you know what? Let's see if I'm really that busy.
Mm.
And then you start to excavate, because let's face it, excavating your life and saying, am I full of shit, is not enjoyable. It is hard
No,
work.
it feels so bad. You feel so terrible. You're like,
But it
dang.
is so much better. I mean, you and I can speak to this on the other side of it now, looking
Yes.
back.
Hmm.
I cannot believe that I said I am so busy for 15 years.
Mm.
15 years. I remember the moment that I had a manager, a female manager that I looked up to, and I was like, I want to be her. She's so busy. She's a boss. She's going from meeting to meeting to meeting. I'm going to be like her. I remember the moment. And I remember the 15-year moments after that that solidified that in order to be a successful businesswoman, I was busy and I was rocking it and I was going from meeting to meeting. That was honestly a legacy that I do not want to pass on or share to any woman in my life. I want to say to her, busyness is out,
Yeah.
right? And self-reflection,
Yeah.
excavation is in, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also too, you had asked, or you had posed the question earlier, is can money solve this? And now, and I know there are a lot of people who are AI averse, but can AI solve this for me? Here's the thing.
Yes.
I, in any given day, let's say I have, I don't know, 7 to 8 meetings in any given day. What I always will do is I will go through to see, hey, which of these meetings do I actually have to attend? And which of them are more informational, right? So the ones that are informational, if I can't have an assistant go, and honestly, even if the assistant goes, I will attach my otter.ai. I promise you,
Yes.
y'all, this is a game changer. OTTER
Mhm.
AI. I will attach it to have my otter attend. It will transcribe the entire meeting. It will also highlight what the deliverable items are. So if, let's say, my name is said and there are some deliverables, and not even just mine, just all of the deliverables from that meeting, then it will send me that entire package in an email about 15 minutes after the meeting, so then I can go through on my own time to determine, okay, what do I need to do? What are the follow-ups? What needs to be done next, so that I can own more of my time? If it's go to take a break to eat your lunch or attend this meeting, go eat your lunch. And I do understand that there are some things that you just must attend and you must do. Well, then that means it gets taken from somewhere else.
Yes,
We
absolutely. And I
we
think it's using AI for that. It's using AI to, or just, in your mail, type in keywords that you
Mhm,
want actual articles to come up to. I think it's blocking your time and making sure
mhm,
you're unsubscribing at least once a month to crap that you don't need. Like
yep.
it's managing all of those 10-minute buckets.
Mhm,
It's also scheduling social media time. And I don't want to, I know we're kind of getting towards the end here, but I want to make sure that you are thinking about, our listeners here are thinking about their relationship with social media.
mm.
I was turning to social media when there was something missing inside me. I was looking
Mm.
for an external validation, a factor, some information, which I think social media is great, right? I certainly use it for my business. It's certainly a platform.
Mhm.
But I want our listeners to really think about their relationship with social media and time block if they're going to spend time on social media, that they actually block time to do that. And there is something on your iPhone, if you guys are iPhone users, that say your screen time has been up by 5%, 10%.
Yeah.
Take a look at that. And I actually, the other day, took a look at my week screen time and looked at the fluctuations. And I was like, that was the day I was not feeling great. That was the day I was not feeling great.
Mm.
And looking at a way to replace your busyness or your anxiety with not social media, something else. So I have now adopted adult coloring, which sounds very funny, but it's very fun. It gets my
Yeah.
right brain, left brain working together. It
Yeah.
gets my hands busy,
Mhm.
right? And it's a great way to kind of channel that anxiety or feelings that are bubbling up into something a little more creative and less detrimental to, you should be doing this, you should look like this, you should be XYZ. So
Yeah.
just a
All,
tip.
all the shoulds. This has been such a juicy conversation because I like talking about the things that people like to shy away from. The hey, we're going to tell ourselves the truth.
Yeah.
Is this real or is this BS? Like, are you really this busy, or does it just make you really, really, it does make you feel really, really good to be so busy or to be so in demand? What could, and this is the question that I want everyone to walk away to musing over, what could your life look like if you decided that you were your most important person? If you were your
Mm.
MVP, what could it look like? How much better can you serve others when you take care of you best? What does that piece look like? And then what do you think your life would feel like if you decided that living in a constant state of burnout is no longer something that works for you? So yeah, as
That's
as we're leaving, I would love for you, Hannah, to just give us 3 tips and tools that we can use to get back in the driver's seat of our own life to create an extraordinary life.
Absolutely. I think for me it's all about body, mind and spirit. At least block your schedule, or your focus for the week could be one thing body, one thing mind, and one thing spirit. And I think you
Mhm.
mentioned hula for yours. I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
body,
that's
right? You're
body.
working out your hips.
Yep.
But for me, it's what for mind, what podcast am I listening to? What article, what book, what are things that are making me stretch my mind?
Hmm.
Spirit is all about connecting. I have 2 people a week that I'm supposed to be connecting with in my own mind, right? It's someone who makes me laugh, because my goal for 2024 was more laughter.
Yes.
And then I connect with someone who makes me grow,
Mm.
challenges me to think outside the box. So it's one mentor and one person that I just are going to sit with and either have coffee or a cocktail with, and I'm just going to laugh. So that's
Yeah.
spirit. And then body is, walking the dog, right? Doing a yoga class, taking a hula hoop class, whatever that
Mhm.
is. If I, at the end of Sunday, have done body, mind, and spirit, I consider that a successful week from the inside out. I consider that I have actually put myself first, and all 3 areas of my life and my heart are full, right? I've connected
Yeah.
my mind and my heart.
I love, love, love those. Where can we stay connected so that we can find out too how to make sure that we are carving out space for body, mind, and spirit?
Yes, you can find me at www.SheShatters.com, like glass ceiling. And then I'm all over the internet for Hello Head, Meet Heart, which is my best selling book that just came out in January. So check it out and let me know what you guys think.
Yes, and you can stay connected with me everywhere at Alechia Reese, Alechia, Reese, Reese. And you can join our community at Got Value Nation. There's so many goodies in there. Trust me, you want to make sure you check it out. So until next time, see you later. Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Got Value podcast. Remember, there is true value in purpose, and the greatest discovery of your life will be exactly what yours is. Stay connected with us at gotvaluenation.com.